Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So today, we are going to be reviewing book 2 of the Women of the Other Worlds book series, Stolen. Before we get into that though, if you guys are new here and you like what you see, feel free to hit follow. I'm actively trying to get more stuff on my YouTube channel. It's just not exactly working how I'm intending to do it. Like, I get a good stride and then it's just a matter of just not being able to do it, so all the fun things. But I'm trying to get better at it, but we're all trying to be better at something, right? Yeah, so again, all kind of off the cuff stuff, so there's really no kind of like format. I mean, I follow like give you like a basic thing of the plot, and then I'll talk about like a few of the standout characters. This one, there's a lot of new characters, so I'm not going to go into a lot of them. Also, most of them I really don't remember because there was not good enough descriptions for me to really remember them. But we're gonna go to a few of them. And then yeah, so plot, characters. We're gonna sprinkle in my overall thoughts on it towards the end, and I guess what I liked about the book and what I didn't like about the book. So, yeah. So yeah, it's probably gonna slowly turn into a book review channel because why not? I've been really enjoying reading. Most of the time, I've been reading manga, but now that I've discovered that first-person books exist, as stupid as that sounds, I've actually been really enjoying them because I'm a writer. I have published 2 books, and I write in first person, so these books are very helpful. So, yeah. So let's just, I guess, start with the plot. So Stolen is the second book. I don't know what the timeline is, relatively speaking, after the first one, but essentially, this one focuses on Elena, so it's a werewolf-esque centered book. It follows her in, I believe, Cincinnati, some other place other than New York, and essentially she is contacted by a couple witches. She does not know that they are witches, but she's contacted by some witches and informing her, hey, we've discovered that there is a threat to supernatural beings by the name of Tyrone Wilson. And he is kidnapping all these supernatural beings, and he's like making a game out of it. The scientists that are working with him are trying to like extract them for scientific purposes. You know, like if we found aliens, we'd be dissecting them to see how they can benefit humanity. Going on from that. So she goes and meets them. She's like, no, I don't believe you guys. Also a bit thrown off by the fact that they know who she is and what she is and basically her entire backstory right off the bat. But still in Cincinnati, she's about to call Jeremy, but she doesn't because it's really late, and then she just kind of goes and does her own thing, gets cornered by some people who work for Tyrone Wilson. She follows them, ends up in the same hotel where Paige and Ruth are, and saves them. She gets her boyfriend Clay and Jeremy, and then they all meet at the council, and then as they leave, that's when she gets kidnapped, and then it's now the race to essentially get her out of there, which happens, and it does. It was a good book, but it wasn't my favorite. Honestly, I think a lot of people say this is like a fast-paced book. Like reading like the blurbs and stuff. Like someone said it was like very fast-paced, at the edge of your seat, shit like that. And it was okay. Towards the tail end of the book for me, I was very much like sitting and twiddling my thumbs waiting for the book to end. I know it definitely wasn't like that, and maybe it's because with like Bitten, I've seen the show, so I know how it ends, so it's kind of like coasting through it and already knowing what's gonna happen. But it was, the ending dragged. Tyrone Wilson, spoiler alert, he dies towards the end of it, and we'll get into that a little bit, but I felt that the whole final antagonistic, like, that's probably the wrong word, but the final battle essentially with Tyrone Wilson, with her and Clay and him, and just went on far too long than it really should have. I was like bored out of my mind reading that. I'm just like, can this thing fucking end? Like, he's a psycho. Can we just kill him? Like, I understand that Elena needed revenge. I fully get that, but reading it on the other hand was very boring. But yeah, overall it was a good book. I think it was definitely how I see it as like a bridge book. Like, you know how like some games are really meant to be like, you got the first game, right? and then the people want more games, and I don't necessarily mean that it's like a bad thing, but you know, people want more games, so you got to make like a bridge one, or you have like a series of books or whatever, and you need to make something to like connect all the books, and that's to me what this was. But it was a good book, and sure, people wanted her to expand the universe, and I think she did a phenomenal job expanding the universe, but it was more of a setup book, and all of that fun stuff. But it still was a very good book. Where again her writing talent shines is I love how she just like effortlessly introduces these characters. Like it's like there's nothing worse than when you add a character to a show or to a movie and you can just tell that they just don't feel like they belong. And she just does this so well where she introduces them and you just feel like they belong into this world. So she does a great job with that. But I guess we'll just kind of jump to the characters. So starting off with werewolf-wise, the only ones you really see are like Clay, Elena, and Jeremy. Because Nick and Antonio are out of the country. I can't remember where. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read these books, so don't come after me for not knowing the exact details. But yeah, so they're off in some other country, and then Elena says, hey, we got some issues, X, Y, and Z, and explains it, and then Jeremy conveys that information to those guys, and just says, hey, just extend your stay a little bit while we figure all this stuff out here in the U.S. But, so you really only see them. Elena has some really cool standout moments. I like how it kind of delves into her personal problems. She's very much a character that you really don't kind of get. She doesn't want you to know her personal problems. Like, you know, it's very guarded, very, and she even says that in, like, other books and stuff, and especially Bitten, but she talks about how she's very guarded, and how the biggest thing with her was, getting over the fact that Clay bit her was the fact that here was this man she loved, she trusted, and then he just kind of not completely broke her trust, but he's like the only one that really knows about kind of like part of her backstory. And, you know, and she talks about how she just felt like she feels like rejected a lot of the time, and there's like this scene where she's like ugly crying because she wants to talk to Clay. Clay's like her safe person, and she can't talk to him because he's very distrustful of witches, and to, I guess, briefly explain it, at some point a witch gets kidnapped, which is Ruth. Paige and Ruth are the two witches she's talking to in the beginning of the book, and again, we'll get there eventually, but Paige and Ruth gets kidnapped. She says, hey, Paige is going to contact you, and then she channels her, and so she's like talking with Jeremy, and so she's talking through Paige's body, and Clay doesn't believe her, so she feels rejected by that. So very much, it was interesting to see that side of her, like that very vulnerable side that I'm sure no one likes showing to people. And, like, I know I don't like showing that side to people. But, you know, we kind of have to at some point. But, yeah, so, again, it was very interesting to see this kind of, like, side to her character that we wouldn't normally see. So, very, interesting to see that. But like I said, there's a lot of new characters in this. Like, you meet, like, this, like, interracial council. I can't remember what the actual term is that they use, but there's, like, this interracial, like, council, and it includes a shaman named Kenneth, a vampire named Cassandra, who I really liked, and then she turned out to be a bitch, but, you know, it's whatever. Ruth, who's the leader of it, Paige, who's her daughter, and I believe it's Adam, who is a demon. I actually really like Adam. He's funny. I'm on Industrial Magic at the moment of this recording, and he's funny. Very, very funny. But, and I used to have a bit in Dimestorm Magic, but, I'm not really gonna go into really Adam's character. He has some really cool moments in this, but we'll talk about him more in, like, Dimestorm Magic, so, because you kind of he has more of, like, a presence there, but very much like a ride or die friend for Paige, but we'll get to that. So yeah, you have all of them, and then you got, like, the people at the prison, like, the victims. And so, okay, you have Tyrone Wilson, you have a bunch of doctors. Do I remember their names? No, because they all kind of blended together. The only one that really stands out was Sandra Bauer, I think is how you say her name, Sandra Bauer, and she was a nut job. But as for, like, prisoners, you have, like, Leah, this voodoo priest guy who turns out to be the sorcerer who's actually working for Tyrone Wilson, which pissed me off that I didn't fucking realize that at all. really, really irked me. Then you got Savannah Levine, and then you got, there was another person. There's a vampire there too, and then Ruth, obviously, and Elena, and yeah. Okay, as I said, I'm not gonna really go into all. Oh, Armin Haig. I don't know how you say his name. It's Haig. I don't know how you pronounce that, so I think I always called him Haig, I think. But he was a really cool character. Unfortunately, Tyrone Wilson killed him, and he was a bastard for that. But yeah. So character-wise, I'm really probably only gonna talk about. This is the introduction to Savannah, and you see her in the other one, Dime Store Magic, more so. It's like her more prominent book, and so yeah, we're not really gonna talk about Savannah. So I'm really gonna talk about like the core kind of characters in this. And I guess an important thing to note really is that they make it seem like the main villain is Tyrone Wilson, and he's kind of like this, I say, like cookie cutter villain. Like he's this billionaire guy who's playing with people's lives essentially, and he was kind of just annoying. But the real villains of this in this book actually were Leah, who was like a half demon. I know there's this whole like demon, half demon system. I can't remember what it is. I can't remember the names. So there's different levels. I haven't mastered the level of that yet, but excuse me. But yeah, so there's like different levels of demons. She's a demon, and Katzen is the demon. And essentially what they were trying to do is make this like there's like a coven of witches in like the Pack World. So they were trying to make like a group of like supernatural beings. I think they called it like a conclave, but I'm not sure, so don't really quote me on that. But they wanted to make this group of supernatural beings, and that didn't really include vampires and werewolves because they kind of saw them as like lesser races. But like witches, sorcerers, shamans, half demons, and stuff like that. So really just trying to make like their own like group of it. Leah was an interesting character, and it was funny because I was practicing this while I was at work because while I'm at work I talk to myself. I probably look insane, but I'm like just talking to myself about this, and I had this thought, and I'm like, I really should have realized. I mean, aside the fact that I kind of knew Ruth died and I googled who killed her, I should have realized she was evil from how she acted. Like, again, in my mindset, if you get kidnapped, you're not gonna necessarily like listen to people right off the bat. And it just seemed like with Leah, she was always very like receptive, very nice, very whatever to these people. And it was like I should have been like a why are you listening to these people sort of thing. I just kind of, and I thought about that while I was at work, and I'm like, I should have known that, but I digress. Very interesting character. She I believe was a Volo demon. Basically had telekinetic powers, and she could move objects with her mind. Same thing. There was this whole little plot. She was trying to say that Savannah was, because Savannah's like a young witch, and she hadn't yet come into like her full powers. That's like a big plot point in Dime Store Magic, and so she was like making things move around her cell, and it was interesting. And she was like, "Oh, it's a poltergeist. It's this, and this." And at that point, I had known that it was at that point I had known that she had killed Ruth. Like I said, so when I got the first book, it was interesting. I had looked up on this website the top 10 differences between the books and the show, because I always love watching an anime and then reading it. I think it's a really interesting thing to see what they changed, what they cut. Some things I agree with, some things I don't. Like I said, I don't think an adaptation is necessarily bad. I think just sometimes you have to appreciate for what it is, because sometimes the adaptations do things that are a lot cooler. Like, I'm not going to linger on too long, but like Ace Attorney, in the season 2 where they talk about the game Trials and Tribulations, there's a scene where Godot was like yelling at Phoenix. I think it's just a much better interaction than the game has it, but digressing. So I had known that she had killed her, and I actually had thought that because when Savannah was captured in the book, they even say it. She's like 12, right? So she was home when her mom was. They were going after her mom, and they really just kind of, I thought, so they took the mom, and then they killed the mom because they just wanted the little girl, because it was just like a lot more, I guess, advantageous. But I had thought it was the mom being like, "Fuck all you." You killed me. I'm gonna protect my daughter. So honestly, I thought it was that, but it was Leah, and she ends up also killing Ruth. And Savannah's like, I think I killed her. I think I killed her. And it's like, no, no, you didn't. But you don't find that out until like later on in the book, technically. So, but she was interesting. Katzen character really not kinda there. I mean, he's there. Obviously, I'm still pissed, like I mentioned earlier, that I didn't fucking see it. Like, Clay, like, they go back in the compound after being super sneaky and after, like, doing reconnaissance and shit, like, to get back in, and then they're freeing people. And they free him, and they're like, hey, dude, don't leave, don't leave. And then I'm like, as soon as he left the cell and started wandering off, I'm like, it hit me, like, that's the fucking sorcerer that's been finding all these people. I'm like, are you serious? Like, I was so annoyed. I'm like, he's right there. She passes him all the time. And, yeah. He was there. He was interesting for, like, 5 seconds before he got killed by Clay. But yeah, Leah was an interesting character. Definitely a much better villain, I think. But I think that's honestly what she was going for, Kelley Armstrong. But it's just one of those things where it's like, why? I don't know. Interesting, I guess, but you see her. We'll talk kind of more about her and how what she does in like Dime Storm Magic again. Like I said, like a lot of these characters are in more books, and I kind of want to cover more of the ones. Tyrone Wilson was very annoying. Just your, I hate to say cookie cutter, but it's like I want to say what when people think of like white guy villains, like that's like I feel like what they like that's what he is basically. But again, he's supposed to be like a red herring villain. I know you're not supposed to like him. I still think the ending scene where he got killed deserved. Took way too fucking long, but what do I know? So next characters I'll talk about is Sandra Bauer, and I remember her from the show because when I saw her name, I'm like, you look super familiar. And again, the show takes a vastly different turn with this. But she is still insane. Like, she's one of the nicer characters. Like, don't get me wrong. She's one of the much nicer characters in this book. Like, she's like, don't do that, whatever. And she's very nice, but she also wants power, and she turns herself into a werewolf. And it puts Elena in a very tough situation, but she dies, unfortunately. I mean, I'm not surprised. And it wasn't like she died during the transformation. I will say one thing, though. And again, I know the show and the books are different, but watching the show, she's like very, what's the word? Like, the show, it's like, I feel like they don't do her justice in the show. Like, don't get me wrong, I know the show, it's its own thing, right? But it's like, in the show, after she comes back to life, she's not mentally there. And in the book, she is. Like, in the book, she's there. Like, she's mentally there after getting transformed. And I don't know why they didn't do that in the show, but there's a lot of things the show should have done that I don't know why they didn't do. One of my favorite characters, though, in this book, and I do want to talk about him. I also want to go into another little tangent, but one of my favorite characters in the book was Xavier Reese, or the half-demon Houdini who can, like, teleport. He is, like, such a good character. Like, I mean, he works for Tyrone Wilson, but he knows, like, the patience that Tyrone has with him is, like, really, it's like on something nice, and especially with some of the things where when Mr. Armin Haig had died, he wanted Elena to kill him, and she's like, no. And then Tyrone's like, well, there's going to be consequences. He basically saves her from those consequences. And he's like, look, we're both on thin ice. We got to get out of here, essentially. And so he was such a cool character. He was actually super funny, honestly. And another actually interesting thing was he loved Savannah. Like, they would always play, like, poker and cards and all that. But he he didn't like Leah. And honestly, I can kind of see why he didn't like her. But, you know, now reading the book and all that. But I'm like, why doesn't he like her? They're half demons. I wonder why. Really funny character, though. He's definitely all show. I imagined him very much like, I don't know if any of you guys have seen Dr. Stone, but he reminds me a lot of, like, just personality-wise, and how I imagined him looking was, Dr. Brody from Zeno's, like, group of people. Like, the very loud, very, like, I want to say boisterous, I don't think that's the right word, but very loud, very up there, but in a good way, like, not, like, in a bad way, and that's just, he was just such a cool character, and going through the books, I do know that Elena, in book 6, Broken, she ends up being pregnant, and she does, like, this case that involves Jack the Ripper and zombies to distract herself with, and I'm like, after reading, like, this book and the introduction and all that, or I shouldn't say the introduction, but after reading how he saves her and you owe me, like, a big favor, I'm like, he's the one that calls about this whole Jack the Ripper thing, isn't he? And I was right. I'm very proud of myself that I was right. But yeah, so it's... he was one of my favorite characters, but he was great. He was great. I'm trying to think if there's any other characters. I don't think there's really ones that stood out to me that I could talk about besides making this like an hour-long video. And I do apologize if it's ranty, but again, off the cuff, stuff like that. But honestly, I guess my overall thoughts on it, and again, I think this book, in my mind, was really just to, like, establish a world with other supernatural beings, and it does a phenomenal job at that. Like I said earlier, all the characters just feel like they belong in this world, and I think that's a great thing. You know, like all, like, the council, they all feel like they belong here, and I think it's a great thing. I do still feel that this book is, like, a bridge book. Like, it realistically was meant to be, we're just adding more characters to expand the lore, and I don't know. Maybe it's just because I wasn't a big fan of the book, because it was a daunting task where you just start with werewolves and this whole werewolf drama, and knowing you really can't do werewolves forever, but honestly, it's whatever. Overall, it wasn't a bad book. Like, I like the insights we got, like, on Elena. It's funny how you see the start and growth of, like, Paige and Clay's friendship, and I use friendship loosely because he still really doesn't like her, as it grows, and, like, I almost picked this up, but Industrial Magic, but it was an okay book. I think, honestly, a lot of it took a little too long. Like, honestly, when I first picked up the book, Stolen, I'm like, oh, okay. Elena's gonna get kidnapped, like, roughly early on in the book. And I guess it technically was early on, because the book's, like... So, 395 pages... Oh, wait, hold on, I lied. Okay, so it's basically almost 400 pages. And... Elena gets kidnapped in, like after 100 pages. So, I mean, I guess you needed the setup, but I really just thought she was going to get kidnapped a lot sooner. Again, not the end of the world, but it was just kind of weird. But it's whatever. I don't know. Like I said, decent book. Not my favorite, but it's also not the worst book I've read. But those were my thoughts on it. What are your guys' thoughts? Like I said, if I missed anything or misunderstood anything, let me know. It's been a while since I've read this one. I'm currently enjoying Industrial Magic, and that just got really, really good. You know, all the fun stuff with that one. But, yeah, I think I can give it everything, hopefully. But yeah. So, yeah, the plot, characters, yeah. But, yeah, anywho. I'll stop doing my checklist out loud. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys. Have a fantastic day. I will be back. I do know at some point, probably next week I'm gonna start a new YouTube schedule. So it's gonna be, I do like doing covers on YouTube. I don't want to do just like kind of one form of content, but I'm probably gonna be doing like covers on Tuesday, then maybe like doing like book reviews Monday if I have the books. Like I have read a crap ton of books. Like I am like seeing like manga and stuff that I have read, and if you guys want to see that being reviewed, like there's my bookshelf right there. If you guys want to see it being reviewed, let me know. Um, like I said, I my biggest dilemma right now is with reviewing manga. I don't know how I want to do it because it's like, do I want to review it book by book? Do I want to review it like arcs? Because I know that might be a little better, talking about like the whole grand arc versus like just that one book. I think that one book might get a little tedious, but let me know what you guys think, because I was trying to think about that today too while I was at work. But anyways, yeah, so maybe hope I can get you guys the Dime Store Magic one review by like Monday or something, Monday, Tuesday. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your night, guys. Have a fantastic day, and yeah, if you like what you see, comment, subscribe. I'll be here. Have a good night, guys.